You know, every week it's our joy to come to you, bringing you concepts for living, giving you biblical principles by which to order your life. I want to thank you for tuning our way. I want to thank you for your emails. I want to thank you for your responses in so many ways. It has been a blessing to us, a definite encouragement that we would continue to bring you more concepts for living. I don't know whether you're considering yourself a partner with us or not, but I sincerely trust that you will give consideration to that. We would welcome it. That whatever way God would move upon your heart to assist us to bring you more concepts for living, we will give you all of the thanks as well as give God all of the glory. You ought to give God praise that everything around you fell away and you're still standing. That whatever you have faced, going through with tears, going through crying, going through weeping, going through broken, going through burden, but when everything else falls away, you're still standing.
Welcome to Concepts for Living. This service is coming to you from the Chapel of the Anointing. We invite you to stay tuned for a life-changing word.
In answer to the question, how will we know, Lord, the sign of your coming? Jesus answers, and the earth will quake. I'll be talking in this message from the theme, there's a whole lot of shaking going on. I hope that as you will stay tuned, you'll discover more concepts for living. Now look at somebody and say to that person, there's a whole lot of shaking going on. There's a whole lot of shaking going on. You hear people asking the question from time to time, what's going on? What's going on with our world? What's going on in Bermuda? What's going on? What's going on in our family? What's going on? What's going on? It's a whole lot of shaking. That's what's going on. Among the eschatological or end-time doctrines, doctrines that predict occurrences in the last days. One of those predictions is that there would be universal shaking. A shaking in the natural realm, a shaking also in the spiritual realm. A shaking in the earth and a shaking in heaven. Numerous Old Testament prophets foresaw the day when there would be another great shaking of heaven and earth. Repeatedly, we are observing the news on CNN, ABC, and NBC. News of alarming events that are occurring in our world that seem to strike the very note of trepidation within our very spirits. We hear of natural disasters that break our hearts. We hear of governments that erupt and eclipse right before our eyes as we watch the television screen. We see upheavals in cities, upheavals in governments, and upheavals in all spheres of our society. The world is in an eruption mode. Repeatedly, particularly in the Old Testament, we hear of times when the earth quaked. or shook. When God was giving Moses the 10 Commandments, the Bible says that the mountain shook at the voice of God. Exodus 19, verse 18. In Ezekiel, God promises vengeance upon his disobedient people. And the vengeance that God promises, that he would shake with a great shaking of the people. Haggai chapter 2, verse 6 and 7. Haggai looks down through the corridors of time and he decrees and declares that once more God's going to shake heaven and earth, the sea, the land, and all nations. Oh boy. That's why I've titled this message, A Whole Lot of Shaking Going On. There are times when God just comes in his fury and he shakes. These are the last days. I said these are the last days. When you look in this text of Hebrews 12, and you will observe there something that I think is worth our notice at this point. Look in verse 26. And it says, whose voice then shook the earth. You got that? That's speaking historically. Whose voice then shook the earth. But now he hath promised, saying, yet once more I shake, not the earth only, but also heaven. Everything is shaken. Oh yeah, you and I are living in the day and age of the mighty shakings of God. What's going on right now is God's shaking up his world. Are you listening to me? Note the words of contrast. The word that it happened once before, and it's going to happen again. Somebody ought to say with me, and it's happening right now. The 3 points of this message: the caution, hear him that speaketh. When you see the calamities, the earthquaking, the earth shaking, and then discover the comfort of being safe in the midst of the shaking. Secondly, the calamity. The caution, the calamity. What's the calamity? The very word calamity actually speaks of misfortune and distress that is out of human control. Situations that seem to be beyond us to regulate. And I'm not just talking about your pocketbook. I'm talking about your whole life. I'm talking about what's happening on the stock market. I'm talking about what's happening between China, Russia, and America. I'm talking about what's happening in Afghanistan. I'm talking about what's happening in Iraq. I'm talking about what's happening on the streets of Chicago or Baltimore or even Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm talking about all of the events that's going on in this planet. When you observe even the election and everything is happening in America right now, all of it factors into what God is doing. If I had 3 people who understood that, they'd give God some glory right now. I said earlier, with governments that are erupting and eclipsing, first you see them, then you don't. Changing overnight. Wars everywhere. Don't make me enumerate on that. Man-made institutions collapsing. The physical created world that God even created is now falling apart. It's falling apart for his entrance. It's falling apart. You and I don't understand, even though on Palm Sunday we said that the donkey that he would ride, that had never been ridden, would be waiting for him. Tied. At the place where 2 paths meet. And it was so. I'm going to prophesy. There are things that you have been questioning God about that you really ought to settle down and know he's got it all in control. Our biggest, mine as well as yours, our biggest problem is that if things don't look the way we think they should look, it means the right thing is not happening. But it's not about you. I tell you what, you can be here or going. And when you're going, it says, I buried a man at sea. I like the water. I like boating. I'm not a seaman. I'm not a seaman, doctor. But I am a boatman. So, you know, I'm out there with them on the boat, and I'm getting, my stomach is saying, I don't like this. And my head is agreeing. So I'm looking for the cabin. So I'm going, the man said, don't do that. Don't go down there. Don't go down. So I said, man, I can't handle it out here. I got to go in there. He said, I told you, didn't I? Don't go in the cabin. It's going to be worse. I couldn't see that. I said, it can't be worse than out here. So I went down in the cabin, and I laid down on the seat. Oh, I'm so sick. Oh, could hardly stand. And then finally, they came and got me and brought me out, propped me up. He said, we are here, and we're ready. Now do what you do, Reverend Lambe. And I'm standing there, you know, I had a beautiful eulogy of the man. Beautiful eulogy. But I tell you what, I got to the point where I said, I released this man to the sea who was always at home in the sea. Bow. Quick. Then I wanted the party take off right away. And it looked like to me he's just staying here. I'm saying, the man's over. Let's go. I was on the boat, the police boat, the Blue Heron. And so while I'm there standing like that, I'm standing on the side of the boat there right by the gunnel, and I'm standing there just looking over, and I'm saying, Lord, what's that? Now we're gonna hit a reef. Why didn't he move this thing? There's a reef right here. Look at this reef. Look at this reef. Look at this reef. Then I said, the reef is moving. Because reefs don't move. I'm saying the reef is moving. He said, man, that's not a reef, that's a whale. I said, a whale? And the thing, when I lifted my eyes, I saw how long it was. And guess what? The whale didn't go down under the boat. The whale didn't go to the side one way or the other. The whale just kept. And the man said, oh, he's not going to turn. Hang on. And the boat just like that. And we died. And guess what? We looked and watched that wheel. Let's go straight across. Pastor, why you give that long illustration like that? You're blowing my mind. I'm giving that because the whale refused to be deterred or redirected because we are out there. Somebody up in here needs to have the whale-like disposition that says no matter what comes in front of me, I'm going to keep my course. I don't have to change my course. It better change its course because the calamity will always be there. But you and I have to meet the calamity with a resolve that I ain't moving. I'm not changing. I'm going to keep my direction clear. I'm going to stay in place. Oh, my God. Because some of us think we're so bad. We think we got it all together. We know everything about everything. No, you don't, and neither do I. Watch this. But now watch. You got to get this. You see, because when you read over in the book of Job 38 and read verse 12 and 13, Job 38. Now, listen to this. God is having a debate with Job because some of us are too big for our britches because we got a little bit of knowledge. We think we got all of it. That's a big mistake, especially when you try to match wits with God. So God is telling Job, who in the world you think you are, questioning me about what's going on with you? I mean, who do you think you are? Were you there when the morning stars danced together? Or were you there when I laid the foundation and did not have any rigging under the foundation? And the foundation was put there, and now it stands. I want you to know, where were you when I did this? Where were you when I did? And by the way, can you talk to the morning and say to the morning, morning, today, wicked people are going to do bad things. So what I want you to do is get to the four corners of the earth and pull the blanket up in the new day and dump out the wicked ones. Read it. That means that many things that are shaken and are in a state of upheaval, God is just trying to separate to get out what is in so that the wicked are not going to be in when they're supposed to be out, and the righteous that are supposed to be in don't get out. God said, can you handle that? Job, you think you're big and bad? Can you handle that? I talked to him. I talked to the wind. I talked to the morning. I talked to the trees. I talked to a fish, and so go pick him up. I talked to another fish and say, take this in your mouth, because Jesus is going to need it. Shucks. I'm going now. Look, God is operating in realms that your eyes cannot see. Stop trying to match wits with God. You are finite. He is infinite, and he knows the end from the beginning, and he never makes a mistake. I sincerely trust that you have come to the conclusion that you will be in the kingdom, and while the world shakes around you and while the world tumbles away, you'll be safe in the kingdom of God. There's a whole lot of shaking going on, but you don't have to be shaken. Listen to me. God is speaking, even through the signs of our times. And so, until next time, we shall come to you with more concepts for living. May God bless you and yours.
Thank you for viewing Concepts for Living. If you would like a CD, DVD, or download the entire message, go to our website, www.fcogchapel.org. We would like to hear from you. Please send an email for prayer or send a praise report on how God is blessing you through this program. We invite you to join us again for another Concepts for Living.